Okay, I think we are back. Whatever little glitch that was, it looks like resetting the stream has addressed that accordingly. So hopefully you guys are hearing us loud and clear this time. I think we should start from scratch because I'm not sure anybody heard anything we said, and we had some great conversation.
Yeah.
And like everybody missed Mr. Tiger's like 4 appearances in that 5 minutes while we were down. I mean, it's insane how things happen like that while nobody's watching, right?
Yep.
So here we are.
She downed 9 whales. So
yeah, no longer are rabbits the food of choice.
No.
It's whales.
Stepped it up a bit.
Probably carted up from Corpus Christi.
Right,
by
definitely.
Mr. Tiger. Yeah, he's expanded his hunting territory.
Yes.
In all seriousness, we are here for evening 2 of Huane audio update.
Mm-hmm.
We do intend on getting back to the studio at some point, but
yes.
Tonight is kind of the eve of a big trip for you, right?
It is, yeah. My hockey team and I are going down to Taos, New Mexico tomorrow for a tournament there. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I'm excited for you. Unfortunately, I'm not getting to make the trip with you because I got to go on the last trip, which was in Dallas. Mm-hmm. And you guys did exceptionally well on that trip, didn't you?
Thank you. Yeah, we were down there for the Top Shelf Hockey Challenge, which is part of the Dallas Stars youth tournament series. And we went 6 games undefeated that weekend. We won the whole tournament in our division. We got the championship. So that was awesome. That was a fun experience.
Well, aside from just the thrill and the pride of watching you succeed and your team succeed, I was quite impressed with the trophy, which was very Dallas.
It was.
It was like this
giant silver boot.
Looks like it could have been something handed out, at the end of a Dallas Cowboys season or something.
Definitely,
right?
yeah.
But so I wish you well. I know you and Mom are going to enjoy your trip. So you're one of 3 chicks on this team, right?
Yeah, it's 2 other girls besides me. 2 other girls. Shout out to Avery Jones and Aspen Battles. They're the best, and we've all 3 been together for a long time. So. Yeah.
And it's not just a team of 3 girls. It's just you're the 3 girls on the team. The rest are the boys.
Yeah,
right?
The rest are just all guys. It's a lot of fun.
Well, and I've been thrilled to watch just how gentlemanly those guys are, and
they're very respectful.
Yeah, well, and you girls hold your own. I mean, you can trash talk like the best of them. I've seen you check some guys pretty solid, and you stand your ground. So
thank you. Yeah.
But yeah, well, so enough about hockey. Let's talk a little bit about owls.
Mm-hmm.
So as you guys know, we love to take your questions. We've got the chat window open, and we invite anyone who might have a question to go ahead and pose that in chat. And bear in mind that we might be taking a little longer to answer one question and miss another question, so feel free to restate it if we don't quite get to it. No promise and no guarantee we'll get to every single one of them.
Right.
But we love to take the questions, and if anybody has them, go ahead and pose them. But as we do that, so we've had some great weather on the nest the last few days compared to, say, the last 7 days, right?
Yeah, we have. It's definitely been a lot warmer.
Yep. So we've enjoyed some temperatures in the 60s today. We went from basically 10s and 20s on Monday and the weekend prior till almost spring-like weather. I mean, I even ran the irrigation system today.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah. So, but Mrs. Tiger, I said Mrs. Tiger, Altera, seems to be quite comfortable. And look at her; she's even got what do we call this? Fluttering.
Yeah, I think so.
Goaler fluttering, is that the proper term?
Yeah.
But it looks like she's kind of just keeping herself cool there in a rather warm evening, which is a good sign, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So it looks like we have a couple questions coming on chat. So Wendy Woot wants to know if we ever smell Altera's pantry when we are outside.
No, I don't think that's ever happened. It just stays up there.
Yeah, and it's worth noting too that for the most part, food is consumed usually within about 20. Right now, there's nothing in the pantry, right?
Right.
Pantry food, for those who don't know, the pantry is what is in the nest, kind of as a stockpile of food to feed the babies. And do we ever smell that? Well, bear in mind that most of the time the nest is a good 15 to 20 feet above normal ground. And most of the time, that food not quite to the point where it's terribly smelly yet, and they consume that. Or we've seen a couple instances over in seasons past where maybe if she had an overstock of food, something got a little ripe, so to speak, she would carry it off.
Yeah.
And we never saw exactly what happened to that. But So I don't know. I've never smelled it below. What about you?
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah. So there's a question from, let's see, Corky Bird. In past seasons, I've seen small birds land on the railing near the planter. At what point would Mr. T or Altera attack a bird right there for food?
I feel like if Mr. Tiger was near, he might just try to catch that, or they definitely attack if the birds were trying to harm the nest. But it just kind of depends on if they're hungry, you know?
Yeah, I think there's a difference between hunting and defending.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've seen instances where, the one the most detectable evidence of defense that we see, or technically we hear, is them clacking their beak.
Yes.
And so we've seen instances of that, even live on the stream, where other birds might come near and sort of gets Altera's attention, and maybe she'll clack her beak, and maybe she'll stand up. But I don't know that they would necessarily instantly go into hunting mode right there. I think they're more in defense mode, and I think there's a distinct difference between the two. Would you agree?
There definitely is.
Yeah. The only time I've ever witnessed them hunting is one instance, and I think it was season 2 or 3, where Mr. Tiger was up on a rooftop across the street, and I saw him swoop down, and I just assumed he might be coming towards the nest, but I saw him land, and he pounced and sort of, and then shortly after he came to the nest with whatever it was he caught, which I believe was a rat. But that's the only time, I think, in all 7 seasons I've ever actually witnessed them hunting.
Yeah.
And that's supported by the fact, or at least my theory is that they don't really hunt immediately at the nest, because we have, as everybody who knows me and lives nearby understands, I love working in the flower beds, but I can't plant pansies unless they're in a pot, and I can't plant begonias unless they're in a pot, because what?
The bunny rabbits.
The stinking rabbits get them.
They'll get them in one night, and they'll be gone like the next morning.
And you would think if there was any house in this neighborhood, in this side of town, that would have no problem with rabbits whatsoever.
It'd be ours, right?
It would be ours, right? But apparently the tiger family is not interested in hunting around the house, which I'd love to have a conversation with them about that someday, huh?
Yeah. Okie Bunny says, are there any plans for a charity fundraiser this year? We actually haven't talked about that this year. I don't know.
It's not that we haven't planned on it, or haven't, it's not that we margin this year.
Yeah,
Rather, did Altera adopt a baby, but we adopted a baby. Very little margin in the. I'm not going to say yes, which is something you kids hear Daddy say often, but we might try to do that.
Right.
Just it hasn't materialized just yet.
Mountain Serenity says, when the owlets get bigger, will you put a board for climbing back into the urn from the flower pots?
So the long-standing commitment from us is that unless we are absolutely compelled to act for the safety or for the apparent danger of the owlets, we only observe. But anybody who's been a witness to previous seasons knows that there have been a couple instances where we have done it was Tiger Lily, I think, the first year, and then he fledged but came over to one of the quarters. It's hard to flap the wings, especially. We've done that in the past. I'm not going to say act and respond accordingly, and of course helpful owl experts and animal experts as we always have. I think we've demonstrated we'll respond accordingly and appropriately when needed. So did you see any other questions?
Oh, sounds good.
Does it seem like Mr. T is staying by the nest longer this season? And Mac wants to know that. It's hard to say, because honestly, we've observed Mr. T over the past several years, but we haven't necessarily tracked it until season 6 and season 7, which brings me to also plug the front page of OKCAlcam.com. If you want to see the frequency of Mr. Tiger's visits and the frequency of Altera's departures or breaks from the nest, that we have a helpful graph that is outputting data that's tracked by our moderators. Each time Altera leaves and arrives, or Mr. Tiger visits, they're logging that, and you can see, a trend. And I think over time through the season, you'll see even a greater trend of those visits, and it will become, I think, even more interesting as the babies hatch and Mr. Tiger starts delivering food. I think we'll be able to watch a growing trend of his deliveries, and then of course it'll become interesting to watch as Altera takes longer and longer off of the nest to teach them independence.
Right.
But I can't say that I detect necessarily any difference in Mr. Tiger's visits, because it's kind of rare that actually he would visit during this period of the nesting. I wouldn't say he's historically done that very frequently until the babies hatch. Wouldn't you agree?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, he just kind of comes and checks on her when the babies are there. He brings food, but I don't think it's changed. So, yeah. So,
Kogal wants to know, can we talk about the Hatch Watch contest? So this is something we've done for the past several years. And if you're a follower of previous seasons who've participated, you know that we have one of our long-term crew members, Mary Monson, who is an artist here, actually quite local to us here in Edmond.
Mm-hmm.
And she has generously contributed each year very, very detailed, very artistic representations of, at least for the past couple of years, the baby owls. She's done Mrs. Tiger, and portraits of each one to provide her services and her work to be awards for whomever can guess the closest to each one of the 2 eggs hatch times, right?
Hatch dates, yeah.
Yeah. So what we have is a solution that we implemented 2 years ago, which is a database that we'll make this link public in the days to come, but where viewers can log in and log their guesses for E7-1 and E7-2, their guesses for their hatch times, and whomever is closest gets the portrait painted for that particular owlet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I see Mary's in chat right now, so everybody say hello to her.
Yeah, she's awesome.
If you haven't checked out her work, she goes by Paws and Portraits as her artist name, I believe, or her business name, and you can see her work in pretty much all over the OKC Alcam social pages from past. So have we missed any other questions? Let's see. Something about the balcony. Why have they moved their nest to a different balcony? It looks much smaller. Well, Darla, the sarcastic person in me, wants to say, I don't know, they haven't said yet. But that's just actually a bigger balcony. What the previous several seasons have been on.
Yeah.
You're looking at what we consider a Juliet balcony, which, if you think back to kind of the imagery of, romance, where, Juliet is calling out to Romeo on the balcony. That's so this bottom, they're roughly 42 inches deep. From those crosswise, it's roughly a little more than 6 feet wide. A bigger nest site. Now, where you might be perceiving it as smaller is the fact that she has chosen an urn, which has less surface area of dirt than the pots previously. Why she chose that, I have no idea. We know that Altera has, at least last year, she chose the north side of the house. Something about that she didn't like, and so she abandoned, and we didn't have a season.
Right.
So I'm going to guess that she's learned, and there's something that has compelled her to choose this site. And we also can't underestimate Mr. Tiger's influence, because, as we know, he has played instrumental roles in scouting nest sites, as we've seen in past seasons. What do you think about that?
Yeah, there definitely is probably something about this nest that's better than other sites, she chose it, and like Dad said, last year she didn't like the nest she chose, so I'm just glad she chose this one.
Tanya wants to know if those windows open. Yes, those are casement windows. We don't make it a practice to go stand out on those balconies, but yes, they certainly open, and that's exactly how you're enjoying the view. You're more installed by accessing it through the windows. Little bit of trivia there. The picture-in-picture coach light is like a wall-attached light on the front of the house, or in this case, I'm kind of the courtyard side of the house, and the camera is stuck to that light looking down. And then the main view you see right now is what I've named Romeo 1, which is a protected kind of contrived camera casing that's attached to a welded piece of steel attached to the handrail for the time being. So.
Oh, and I'd also just like to give a shout out to my best friend Avery Jones, because again, that's her second shout out, because she's in chat and she's also the best and she's great. So she's going to Taos too. We're riding together for 9 hours with our moms for 9 hours in the car for.
So good luck to you, ladies.
9 hours.
All right, next question. If we haven't gotten to your question, feel free to repeat those. We're going to go for another 5 minutes or so until about 8:30, and then Alessondra's going to get back to packing and preparing for her trip.
Yes.
Crickets.
Yes. Oh, also hi, Skylark. Hey, you good, Avery? Mom. It's gonna be so great. Thank you, Laura, for saying have a great trip.
Hey, actually, one thing I was going to mention, we have a number of our moderators in chat right now, but this whole chat thing is something that in season 1 we had no idea would be such a major component to the Alcam. It's where community has been developed and where we've made so many friends. But that doesn't happen without the help of our moderators. So if you see somebody with their name in blue, they are part of our Modly crew. And if you'd love to learn more about who's involved in the behind the scenes and in the chat, go to the okcalcam.com, and there's a menu at the top that says Learn. And if you click on the link that says The Team, it will take you to our new moderator profile page where everyone who participates is listed, and you can learn a little bit more about each and every moderator. Get a feel for who it is that is leading chat. And these people have become so important to us, and we are really thankful for the role they play in this whole endeavor.
Yeah. I saw a question that was, what do you think of Altera's begging calls? I thought they were so weird. The first time I heard like one of her honking things, I like doubted it was her. I was like, hold on, I have to go back, because that was really weird. But then she ended up doing it from like, on one night it was like 8:50 to 8:58. It was really weird. Also, Cindy Click, which is, my grandma, Nindy, she asked, did you get the dip for the trip that she made? And yes, I did. Thank you.
It's probably one of the few times we've actually heard it live on the stream, but it's not the first time it's been heard behind the scenes at the Alcam, because I have actually, it was not Altera, but it was Mrs. Tiger a few seasons ago when I was out. You guys have seen many of the nighttime photos and the videos that I've taken and posted. So I've spent a lot of time, kind of out in the yard and kind of camping out across the street and whatnot, trying to get good imagery for this. And in previous seasons, when whatever outlets for that season were about to fledge, and I was getting, say, photos of them up on the ledge, that's when Mr. Tiger, and in this case Altera, but back then it was Mrs. Tiger, would be trying to coax them off the ledge or trying to compel them to make the leap. And it was actually a call. The noises we've heard Altera make in the previous days here were very similar to what I heard, because I remember the first time I heard them, I thought it was like, it sounded to me kind of like, honestly, I thought it was like a dog at first, like a kind of a weird bark, because I didn't even know that Mrs. Tiger was in the area. And I heard these sounds coming from over my shoulder, and then I look up on the roof and I see her there. So I've heard them before, but this is the first time I think I've heard them early in the season, where I think many people are thinking Altera is either calling for food or communicating with Mr. Tiger. Honestly, I think this is a great question for Carla Bloom sometime as part of the show, and I'm sure she can provide us with lots of insight on that.
Yeah. Laura said, reminded me of a goose, and that's exactly what it sounded like.
That's exactly right. So, DE fan wants to know, I get asked about the buffering. I know it is tech stuff, but any explanations for this? So buffering, we send. First of all, we have pretty much the largest pipeline out of the house that our service provider offers, which is far more than adequate for the stream, which we upload to YouTube at 1080. What happens between us and YouTube, and then between YouTube and the viewers, is really out of our control. I can't really say, why people might. I know that YouTube offers, lesser bandwidth versions of any given stream, so you might consider selecting something that's not quite so bandwidth intensive. But I just know that from the back end, I can log into YouTube Studio, which is kind of our administrative side of the stream, and I can look. They grade the quality of the upstream, and it's routinely good or excellent. And if it's telling me that, I don't know that necessarily there's anything wrong from our end that's causing that buffering.
Yeah. Someone, Darlene, asked, can large birds attack the eggs if unprotected? And yes, they can, especially blackbirds. They really like tormenting owls. One season, which was the season that was at Cindy Click's house, because she lives right next door, we didn't have a stream, but we ended up only having one owlet, because blackbirds had they started attacking the nest, and there was so many of them, and they got to the point where they had gotten Mrs. Tiger at the time off of the nest, and they had to leave, and they'd bombard her, and they attacked the nest to the point where they actually cracked one of the eggs. So we only had one owlet. So yeah, they can be pretty rough. Yeah, but no nighttime predators, no.
Somebody asked about the height on the balcony. So I would estimate that the height, at least to the floor of this balcony, is about probably 14 feet. The floor of this one's a little lower than the ledge. And then the pot is roughly 38 inches tall, or the urn is 38 inches tall off of that floor. So we have gone 30 minutes. I'm going to open the floor to just a couple more questions, and then Alessondra is going to get back to packing and preparing for her trip. So any other questions? Look at those yellow eyes.
I know, I just noticed
they match the little
those.
microphone icon just perfectly, don't they?
Yes.
Oh, hey, somebody asked, are you thinking of names yet?
Oh, we are thinking about them. We're throwing around a few ideas, but we have not decided. And, oh, Laura, I'm going to Taos, New Mexico for a hockey tournament tomorrow.
Angela wants to know if the owls hooting wake us up at night.
Not at all, really. They're never really loud enough, except if they're standing right on my balcony outside of my room. But, we've just kind of, or at least I've just kind of learned to tune it out. It doesn't really bother me.
TLMK wants to know if Desiree's going on the trip, who will turn on the lights at night?
Dad.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I'm going to say it's not going to be me, because I'll probably be asleep.
Oh, well, make Xavier do it.
We'll make the 2-year-old get up and do it. No, I will do my best to maybe set a reminder to get up and make sure they come back on. We try to make the viewing. We try to create viewing perfection for you guys.
We do. All right. Well, it has been half an hour, so this has been fun. Thank you for your questions, and thank you for listening. So
absolutely. So if you just jumped into this and didn't hear the first part of it, we'll be cutting this video on YouTube, so it'll be archived. You'll be able to revisit everything discussed here, just like you did last episode and future episodes as well. So love you guys. Thanks for in Taos, New Mexico. Bring home. What do you think the trophy's going to be? If in Dallas it's a silver boot, what's in Taos, New Mexico?
Taos, the tournament is called the Coyote Classic, so I don't know.
Howling Coyote.
I was
going to say maybe like a big silver dream catcher.
Oh yeah.
Something rather native.
Yes.
Which we see around here in Oklahoma as well. So, all right. Well, you guys have a good one. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the stream soon.